freckle things, I used to ask that when I was a kid. Where did I get freckles from? My mom ain't got no freckles. My dad ain't got no freckles. How did I get freckles on my face? I was a little kid. I wanted to know how I got freckles and y'all don't got freckles.
Like there potentially could be a paternity question relating to Josiah.
Oh, because like I was saying, she would still like see him. Like she said, he would still come to her house. She would go see him. Anything's possible.
Jamari was his baby. He done more for Jamari. Like he will want to be around Jamari than you ever wanted to.
Tanira Ames is torn between two men who claim to be her father. Mr. Patin, the defendant whom she believed as her father all her life, has paid over $40,000 in child support raising her. And Mr. Garcia, the plaintiff, who is suing to prove he is her father after many years. Mr. Garcia says he searched for his daughter for over 25 years and reconnected a year before he filed the case.
In Jersey, visiting my family, and I was really looking for her on Facebook, wanting to find her so we can reconnect. Because I always called and always asked about her, and I was really looking for her heavy. We found each other on Facebook last year.
Miss Ames says her mother died when she was 13 years old, and never even mentioned to her the possibility of another person being her father, apart from Mr. Patin. But when she clocked 25, a family member of hers confessed and told her there's a possibility that Mr. Patin may not be her father. They gave her a name, and she searched for him for years and couldn't find him. So when Mr. Garcia came along, she decided to hear him out.
However, when I was 21 years old, another relative of mine decided to tell me, well, there's a possibility that your dad isn't your dad, that another man is your father.
She asserts to him and tells him that there's a possibility, and that's why they're in court. When they reconnected, she was pregnant and almost at labor, and even though he had things to do in Florida, he stayed with her till she gave birth to her daughter.
To Florida, and he stayed an extra 2 weeks because he wanted to meet my daughter. I'm torn. Like, I have 2 kids. And I want my kids to know who their grandparents are.
The most wronged party in this case, Mr. Patin, says he's been there for her since her birth. He stayed with her family for 10 years, and he's paid child support for her for 18 years as well. Judge Lake commended him for that. I mean, more than $40,000 for child support, and he paid it all off. But apparently he and Miss Ames have a rocky relationship. She says she remembers an incident when she was younger, when he told her to go find her real father, when they had an argument. I mean, this would be upsetting, but she's always had some questions.
The freckle things, I used to ask that when I was a kid. Where did I get freckles from? My mom ain't got no freckles. My dad ain't got no freckles. How did I get freckles on my face? I was a little kid. I wanted to know how I got freckles and y'all don't got freckles.
Mr. Garcia says he's always believed she was his daughter. He even asks about her from his family when he calls. But he finally had the courage when he saw her on Facebook. Then he went to New Jersey to find her, and he told his family that he's going to try to find his daughter. He had to meet her mother in high school, and he knew that Mr. Patin lived down the street from her.
Down the street one time, I asked, what's going on with, you and Joey? And she said nothing, we were just friends. Her mother told me, they were just friends. But I had, it was suspicious that, that they would.
Miss Ames says she's torn between the two of them because she now has a relationship with Mr. Garcia. She and her family went on her vacation to Florida, and all the time he stayed with them. His ex even told her that he's always mentioned that he had a daughter in New Jersey, and she truly appreciates him for making an effort to find her, even when her mother told him he wasn't the father.
You see that he truly is making an effort.
Yes. And his ex told me that he had told her that he had a daughter in New Jersey, and that my mom told him.
Since Miss Ames and Mr. Patin have a rocky relationship, Judge Lake asks her what is truly driving her, and she answers saying she's torn in between. I mean, it's not her fault things are happening the way they are. She just has to choose what's best for her and her children. No matter what, her grandchildren need the relationship with their grandparents. She says both of them will always be her fathers.
Deep down inside, I need to know. I need the answers. And I can't speculate on what my parents did 30 years ago, because this is something they should have figured out 30 years ago.
Both the fathers are 100% sure that Miss Ames is their daughter. The only thing that could solve this is the results. Judge Lake decides to read the results.
It has been determined by this court. Her biological father is Mr. Garcia. Are you okay, Ms. Ames?
Miss Laws drags her ex-boyfriend, Mr. Bailey, who she claims is the father of her 18-month-old son, Josiah. She says there's a chance that Mr. Bailey is the father of her 4-year-old son, who she thought was fathered by her late boyfriend, Mr. Davis. She says the only reason he's doubting paternity is because of his mother. The defendant, Mr. Bailey, believes that he's not the father, and the father of her kids is the late Mr. Davis.
Certificate. Mr. Bailey, you say that you did not father either of Ms. Law's two sons and believe that their biological father is Ms. Law's boyfriend who passed away 2 years ago. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Law says she and the defendant met a long time ago in middle school, but she moved away, and when they got to high school, they rekindled. But at that time, she was with Mr. Davis. But then she cheated for one night, and the next 2 months she got pregnant. And she told both men, but she never told them of each other. Mr. Davis took responsibility when her son was born and raised him till he died 2 years ago. But she never told him there's a chance Mr. Bailey might be the father.
So, even though you say you were confused about the paternity, you led Mr. Davis to believe that he was the father?
Yes, Your Honor.
You did?
She reveals that the only person who knew of the secret were some of Mr. Bailey's family members. Mr. Bailey says that he never knew, but the plaintiff counters saying she told him, and he even told her that's his baby. His mother, however, says that she remembers a time when she asked the plaintiff, and she told her that the child is not her son's.
Oz, you did testify to the fact that you were fearful, and could it be possible that you did tell Ms. Nelson this is not your grandchild? Because you didn't want to open up that Pandora's box?
I really don't even remember.
Miss Laws gets upset and emotional, saying she was scared, and that's why she kept the secret for that long. She even says the defendant promised to marry her if both of the children come out as his. Judge Lake invites Mr. Davis's sister in, and she testifies that she truly believes the plaintiff's older son is her brother's. She confirmed that the plaintiff never told her or her family, and there was a possibility that Mr. Bailey wasn't in the picture at all.
Never expressed any doubts to you?
No. He was so happy that he had this first child on the way.
When did you find out there was a possibility that Jamari may not be your brother's biological child?
I never had.
She even says she never received any information, and all this is news to her. If they didn't ask her to come to court, she would have never shown. Wow, what a secret that is. She even tells the court that her brother even thought he had a baby on the way.
Brother have any other children?
Well, hopefully it'd be Josiah, because when my brother passed away, he said he had another baby on the way.
So that would be Ms. Law's younger son, Josiah.
Yeah.
Am I correct?
Miss Law says it's the first time she's hearing of late Mr. Davis, thinking he had another baby coming. Even when she was pregnant with Josiah, and he used to come and pick up Jamari. He was hurt and never even thought that the baby was his, because they'd broken up already, and she was dating Mr. Bailey. The reason, however, that Mr. Bailey doubts Josiah's paternity is because she's so honest about Jamari's, and that's led him to think that there could be another person involved.
Potentially could be a paternity question relating to Josiah.
Oh, because like I was saying, she would still see him. Like she said, he would still come to her house. She would go see him. Anything's possible.
Jamari was his baby. He done more for Jamari. Like that he would want to be around Jamari than you ever wanted to be.
She always told him that Josiah was his, and the question is about Jamari's paternity to her. But Mr. Bailey thinks it's vice versa. Miss Laws is very agitated and emotional and impatient. She threatens to leave the courtroom because she knows the answers already. But Judge Lake calms her down and tells her that if she does walk out, she's walking out on the truth of her children's paternity.
Because you've already testified that you had a question and a secret that you held on to by yourself for all of these years, so much so that the man you say you love so much, his sister's sitting here, and she had no idea Mr. Bailey could potentially be her nephew's.
Judge Lake checks the results for Josiah, and it's confirmed that the father of Josiah is Mr. Bailey. Let's check the answer for her oldest child, Jamari.
And by this court, the biological father is Mr. Bailey.